All right, well, welcome everybody. Thank you so much for attending our public budget hearing. My name is Dr. Kiel, Superintendent of Schools, so I appreciate everyone taking the time to be here tonight. I do also have our Assistant Superintendent of Business and Operations, Mrs. Matuszak, and both of us will be providing our budget hearing tonight. So I want to talk a little bit about the process of how we've gotten here. So with any budget process that we develop, we really want to concentrate on that first slide, to be honest, with our students, right? When we develop a budget, we want to keep our students in mind. We also want to take into our mission. And as you can see in front of you, our mission is to develop and provide a challenging and innovative educational environment with diverse learning opportunities for all students so they will become productive, responsible citizens who can adapt to a rapidly changing world. So one of the caveats on building this budget was not only to look at our mission, but we are also in the process of our strategic planning process of developing a brand new vision and a brand new mission for the school district. So at the same time as we were developing the upcoming school year's budget, we were keeping obviously the traditions in mind of what our current mission is, but also being forthcoming and looking at what might be our new mission as well too. So I'm happy to discuss that this upcoming budget that we presented and that we're presenting tonight looks at not only the previous mission that we were identifying, but also taking into some of the key concepts that we have developed in our most recent mission, such as strengthening community connections, providing an exceptional learning experience for all, while honoring our traditions and embracing innovation. So I'm super excited to talk to you today about our budget process, but I also wanted to highlight some of those important concepts. So with that being said, our 24-25 proposed budget is for $32,734,742. Within that proposed budget for the 24-25 school year, it represents a 1.33% increase or a $429,802 increase over the 23-24 school year budget. So this budget also calls for a 2% tax levy increase. The 24-25 budget maintains and expands upon instructional programming, which I'll discuss in some later slides. It supports health and safety initiatives represented by the school district, and it continues to strengthen the social and emotional services that are provided to our school community. So within our budget, we have a three-part budget, and so I'm going to turn it over to Mrs. Matuszak, who will speak a little bit more in depth about the three-part budget.
Thank you. So New York State requires us as school districts to break down our budget into three different categories. The categories are program budget, capital budget, and administrative budget. As you can see, the program budget makes up the majority of our overall budget. That includes salary and benefits for teachers, professional development for teachers, materials and supplies, and student transportation is the majority of the program budget expenditures as you see there. The next component is the capital budget, and as you can see, that's the second largest component, and that makes up, so that's predominantly made up of our maintenance and custodial staff, our facility maintenance contracts, any equipment, materials and supplies and contractual obligations that we have to maintain our school buildings, and utilities, and any debt that the district has due on an annual basis. The third component is the administrative budget, so that predominantly is made up of Board of Education expenditures, any public hearing expenditures that we have, insurance, legal fees, and administrative costs, so salary and benefits for any of your administrative staff that we have in district. So that just kind of breaks down the overall operation proposed voter approved budget into those three categories for you, so you can just get a better understanding of how we essentially build our budget.
And then so I just want to highlight as well too, we do have some budget newsletters here as well too. So each part of those budgets, each line item is articulated right in the budget newsletter as well too. I do see some individuals that do have budget newsletters. We also do have budget newsletters on the table here, and it is also located on our website if you wanted more information for line-to-line items within that three-part budget. So this has been a difficult year, and I'll be the first one to expand on that. So New York State, within the the governor's budget, took away safe harmless. So Attica Central School District was a safe harmless school district. So in previous school years, we would receive an increase into our foundation aid to approximately 3% on a year-to-year basis. This past year, the governor's proposal originally was to take away the Safe Harmless funding for us. So at that point, we were looking at one point of time, a negative 4% budget reduction. Within the legislature and the executive budget, New York State finally came to an understanding within that and restored Safe Harmless back to school districts. So what that means for Attica Central School District is that we actually received a 0% increase from year to year in our foundation aid. So our foundation aid from this New York State, which is there to help obviously support our programming and instructional needs, remained at a 0% from last year's budget to this year's budget. So with that, we had to make some tough decisions, and looking at our programming and looking at staff reductions as well too. So within the proposed budget, we are eliminating our community education program. So currently we offer opportunities through the school climate grant for our fitness center to be open. Prior to our COVID funds, we had a community education program in which we offered adult education programming as well as fitness centers. That was one of the reductions that we are recommending within this proposed budget. Also with that is our maintenance vehicle. So we have a maintenance replacement plan in which that every so often through a couple of years, we look at our maintenance vehicles, and they have a maintenance replacement plan in regards to when some of the vehicles are end of life. So within that, in the original budget, we had articulated a cost associated with that. We removed that from this current budget as well too, so we will not be purchasing a maintenance vehicle. Within there, we also have a reduction of staff. So we have a total of 9 positions that we are eliminating, that being a behavior specialist, a math teacher, a social studies teacher, a science teacher, an AIS reading teacher, 2 elementary teachers, a cleaner position, and then a part-time HR position that we added last year as part of our BOCES services. So with that, some of these positions were also paid for out of the federal stimulus monies, and those monies were set to expire as of September of 2024. So we wanted to make sure that everybody was aware of that as well too as part of this budget. You know, those were some difficult decisions that we've had to make. We acknowledge those as our Board of Education as well as the Superintendent of Schools. And at this current time, we're still looking to have some of the budget highlights that I'm going to articulate to continue to make sure that we're providing the best programming for our students as well too. So within this budget, we have some highlights. And so the first I want to expand and talk a little bit about is maintaining and expanding our elementary STEAM initiative. So this past year, Mrs. Stenson in our elementary school provided a STEAM special for all of our students in kindergarten through 4th grade. They received that once a week. And so we're looking not only to maintain that, but we're expanding that elementary program by providing more materials and supplies and expanding our units within the elementary. I'm happy to also say that with Mrs. Stenson, we're also supporting a new STEAM initiative at the middle school. So our 5th grade students next year, with some strategic scheduling, will also get a new special in 5th grade for STEAM that we did not have this current year. We do have also a creation of a new technology initiative at the high school. So we are using our current staff, Mr. Versage, for example, who has taught in the middle school for a numerous amount of years, will now be offering a new elective in our high school. And I'm happy to report that as the course offerings have already been presented to the kids, we have over 50 kids that have signed up to take that course next year. 25 students in the first semester and another 25 students in the second semester. This past year with our federal COVID monies, we offered a WIN program, which was a tutoring service in the middle school and in the high school for after school for any students that might need some additional tutoring services. So with the federal COVID monies being reduced, our leadership team and I came up with learning labs. And so this is a new concept that's being rolled out in our middle and high school, recognizing that with the reduction of the federal stimulus money, we needed to come up with a new initiative to still try to provide those tutoring services for our students that may need it in the middle school and high school. So we're establishing learning labs in which kids can be assigned to during the course of the day, in which then those students that may need those services and help will actually have that done during the course of the school day. So learning labs at the middle and high school are a new initiative as well too. At our elementary school, we have our Math Win program that we're continuing to maintain. And so that math program is students at all various levels during the course of the day get an extra 30 minutes of math instruction, whether they need it from an intervention perspective, if they might be below grade level, or if we have exceptional students that are excelling, being able to challenge them as well too. So it's a diverse learning opportunity that we're maintaining at our elementary school as well during the upcoming year. Our library curriculum. So currently we are looking to expand our library curriculum as a way to support existing and new literacy initiatives that are set at the elementary school, and looking at also embedding some digital literacy competencies for our early elementary students. So as they progress from our elementary school and using technology devices and literacy, being able to expand on those so that they're prepared for the middle school as well too. We're looking at maintaining our after-school programming. So we do have a lot of after-school programming that is being done through our federal COVID funds as well too. So we have worked with our faculty association as well as our leadership team to make sure that our after-school programming are being able to roll over into the following year. So we're looking to continue to maintain some excellent after-school programs for students not only at the elementary, middle school, and high school level. And that includes some of our arts programs as well as looking at our extracurriculars in regards to our sporting. And then finally, maintaining our capital outlay project. So in previous years, we have been able to have a capital outlay project, which has been working on upgrading some LED lighting. This capital outlay project in this upcoming budget is looking at replacing the exterior doors at our high school main entrance there and making them more secure. So we're looking at our health and safety of not only our students, but also as our infrastructure for our building. So with that being said, those were some highlights of our budget that we're proposing to the public. The first proposition is the approval and adoption of the budget for $32,734,742. The second proposition that voters will be able to vote on is the purchase of a 2-passenger school van for the transportation program of the district, and then a transfer from the district's transportation reserve. The third proposition is the approval of our 2024 capital improvement project and the authorization to expand thereof in an amount not to exceed $21,074,000. So after this presentation and after I'm able to expand on some of the questions that somebody in the audience might have, I'll also go through our capital project presentation and just give an update to the public on that as well. Proposition 4 is an approval to establish an information and audiovisual technology infrastructure equipment and supplies reserve fund. So since we have actually become a 1-to-1 student and technology ratio school district, so all of our students have application and have access to a 1-to-1 device, so do our faculty and staff. We as a school district need to be mindful and forward thinking of making sure that we have the funds available in a replacement plan to offset any costs that are associated with the replacement of those devices. So we're looking to establish an information and audiovisual technology infrastructure reserve fund in order to do that. The fifth proposition is an approval to establish a new capital improvement reserve fund. So with that being said, the district currently has a capital reserve fund, but it's at its end of life. That capital reserve fund has a 10-year, 10-year, $10 million expectancy that you can actually fund the actual reserve for, and that is at its final year. So we're looking to expand and set up a new capital improvement reserve fund. And then the final is the approval and adoption of Stevens Memorial Community Library budget, which is for $204,939.10. So with that being said, we also do have 2 Board of Education seats up for 3-year terms that will end in June 2027. And those candidates are Mr. Christopher Day, Christopher Kelly, Melanie Toland, and Lyman Rogers, who will actually be running. And then so we are obviously inviting all of the public out to vote on May 21st. I would like to also offer that we have opened up our polls earlier than what we usually do. So typically in the past, our polls have been open from 1 p.m. to 9 p.m. So in order to give our constituents a more opportunity to come and actually vote and exercise that right, we are actually opening our polls from 8 a.m. in the morning until 9 p.m. at night. With that as well too, you'll see the caveat there that we have absentee ballots and early mail ballots that can be obtained from Mrs. Jamie Neisel. So I just want to read a disclaimer really quick about the early voting, just so everybody is aware of that. So starting in 2024, all school districts must offer early mail ballots for elections, which include the annual budget vote and an election and any special election for referendum. Any qualified voters shall be allowed to vote via early mail ballot. A qualified voter is a person who, number one, is a citizen of the United States, number two, is 18 years of age or older, is a resident within the district for a period of 30 days preceding the election, and is not excluded to vote under education law. So early voting is a new concept, so we just wanted to make sure that all of our constituents are aware of that, and that you can reach out to Mrs. Neisel in order to secure those early voting ballots. We also do have absentee ballots that will be sent to those that are listed as military personnel and who are also listed on the permanently disabled list as well too. So if anybody is interested in any of the absentee ballots or in the early mail ballots, they can reach out to Mrs. Neisel. And her contact information is located on that slide. Any questions from the audience?
The 100,000 capital outlay, is that what we get reimbursed 80% from BOCES on that, or is that not correct?
Almost correct. So yes, the $100,000 capital outlay project that's embedded into the proposed capital project, it's just a nice way to get, small amount of work done on an annual basis in between larger capital projects. The nice thing about the capital outlay project is that you do get building aid on it, and our building aid ratio right now is 83.7%, which means we get 83.7 cents back on a dollar for every dollar that we spend up to the 100,000. A typical capital project, the aid comes back over a 15-year span. The nice thing with the outlay money is that all of that aid gets given back to the school district the following school year. So it's really nice, once you initiate the first capital outlay project, you pay for the full 100,000. Once after that first year, essentially you're only having to put forth $20,000 as you move forward, because the building aid's offsetting the other 83,000. So.
Yep. I have a couple questions. My first one is not really a question, it's more of a concern. Losing our middle school AIS reading teacher. I don't know, but she's needed. Your 5th grade class coming up in September, they're the COVID babies. They can't read, and yet you want to get rid of an AIS reading teacher. I don't understand your concept of that. I go to all my grandson's stuff, I know, because he's in 4th grade and he will be upcoming. And when you sit and listen to some of these kids read, they can't read without help. 4th graders cannot read, but yet you want to get rid of an AIS reading teacher. I don't understand the reason why. I mean, she's needed.
So I can tell you from a personnel perspective of working with our building principals and our leadership team, we're looking at restructuring that. So within that, we have 3 teachers in the middle school currently that are AIS providers for reading. With that being said, we also have 3 teachers in our elementary school. So we're looking at restructuring that and also using some of our ELA teachers who can also teach at a reading and provide ELA instruction for some of our AIS providers, being able to provide that for our 7th and 8th graders so that we can then provide more for those students in the elementary that you're identifying.
Because those coming up are going to need the help. I mean, they missed most of their kindergarten year, they missed most of their 1st grade year because of COVID. And now they're coming up into 5th grade. They're going to need help in reading, and it's just a big concern. My other question is, the Board of Education, almost $100,000. What do they do with that? Where does that money go? What is it for?
So are you talking about the line item for the Board of Education
Yes.
within that?
Yes.
Yep, so that specific line item, do you want to touch base in regards to the Board of Education?
Yeah,
what
so
that
the
can be
board,
used for?
the Board of Education expenditures, so we have a chart of accounts that we have to follow, that are set by New York State Education Department. So, I think, you're probably considering it just that it's spent predominantly on our 7 board members. That's not
I just don't know what it's
necessarily.
for, that's why I'm asking.
No, great question. So, it covers any professional development opportunities they have, any policy support that they have. So we have policy services, we have an admin manual services. Those are, things that are covered under the Board of Education. They do have annual training, so any new board member that comes on is required to go to a training. Also, we are in finance and legislation, so there's just a bunch of BOCES coasters that are coded and embedded into that Board of Education
And they
coaster.
use that much money, I mean, almost $100,000 it's gone up to?
Yes.
And my final question, I promise for this. What is the central administration? What is that it went up, all that money?
So the 6%. Central administration. yeah.
It's right under the Board of Education line.
Yep, central administration, so that is, this would be your superintendent's budget codes and the business administration budget codes.
It's not your raises?
Their salary, materials and supplies, contractual obligations, any BOCES coasters that we're in, that increase is an average of all of those put together.
So I can also talk a little bit about this because I addressed it in a previous Board of Education meeting. So yes, so we have also signed up as part of our strategic planning process, bringing in a facilitator, for example, which is equating to about $15,000 increase in that line as well too for next year. That is through the BOCES contract. So as I articulated, that's something that I did share at a previous Board of Education meeting as well too.
Okay.
Reimbursed.
Yes, thank you, Sue, that's a great point too. So any expenditures that we spend through BOCES, we also drive BOCES aid on those expenditures, and we get 70 cents on a dollar back on that. So any opportunity that Attica has to run anything through BOCES, we do try to do that.
And then there's also the board docs is expensive, but we also get reimbursed, and
Through
that's just
BOCES.
not reflected in that. It's just the expense there, you don't see the netting, because it's on a different line.
Right, totally different budget. It's, the revenue comes in on your revenue budget. This is just the expenditure portion of it.
And all great questions too.
Yep.
Any other questions?